I've just made one of the craziest Prismatic Hunter builds on Destiny 2, and I'm not using Combination Blow. So if you want to learn how to have infinite ability spam, infinite ignitions, and just have fun in all pieces of content, make sure to watch till the end of the video to find out how to do that. So without further ado, let's get straight into the build. Now before we go any deeper into the build, there's one key essential thing that you'll need, and that is the exotic class item with Spirit of the Caliban. Now wait, before you click off the video, you only need this one part. The other side really doesn't matter, it's just kind of a cherry on top. But then you might be asking, well, if I only need one part of the class item to be Caliban, why don't I just use the real one? Well, to answer that, when using the real Caliban, you need to have proximity knife, meaning that you need to be on the real Solar Hunter, whereas the class item version of this perk only mentions that you need a powered melee to cause an ignition, which is pretty awesome. But now that you know what you need, let's dive into the Prismatic subclass itself. And we're going to start off with the Super. Now honestly, you can really use anything that you want, but for general play, I love using the new Super Storm's Edge, as I feel like Minato on my Flying Raijin bullshit. But you can literally use any super that you want, like a tether for better ad control, or silence and squall just to clear a whole room at a safe distance. But then from there, we're going to be taking Gambler's Dodge, as, spoiler alert, we're going to be using Threaded Spike, so that when we don't have this, we can just pop our dodge to get our melee back and do it all over again. For the jump, I don't really care what you use, and then going back to the melee, we're using Threaded Spike since it's a really nice projectile melee that also severs targets, and for every target that you hit with it, after you press the melee button again and catch it, you get a certain amount of melee energy back. And so if you use this correctly, you can have an infinite amount of these at all times. And if you don't kill them, they're going to be severed, meaning that they do less damage to you. So this is overall just a really goated ass melee. Now for the grenade, you can actually use whatever you want, but the grapple grenade is the most fun out of the bunch, and it actually still works with Caliban as well, as the end of the grapple counts as a melee, and anything that you hit with that also will cause an ignition. So it's like you have two parts of your kits that can cause ignitions, and it's just pretty cool. Now I'm a weeb and I like shadow clones, so I'm going to be using Threaded Spectre for the strand aspect. Now you might be asking, why the hell are you using Threaded Spectre when you can use Stylish Executioner? And to that, I find this is more fun, and it kind of serves the same purpose as going invis, as any nearby combatants are going to be drawn towards your Threaded Spectre. And it groups them all really nice and cozy for you, as once they group up onto that, the Threaded Spectre is going to explode, and I can't get it low enough to where your melee can kill them and cause them all to ignite, and they're all grouped on that thing. So all of them are just going to blow up and die, causing you to get a lot of transcendent energy and super energy. Then for the second aspect, we're going to be using Gunpowder Gamble, where defeating targets with abilities, elemental debuffs, or solar weapons cause us to have another grenade basically. And this grenade also ignites, and if you really think about it, if you don't have your Threaded Spike, you can also throw this at your shadow clone as they're all grouped up there, and it will make all of them explode. In the way that this build is set up, you can get back to back gunpowder gambles, and it's kind of crazy. Plus, both of these fragments have 3 fragment slots, which is really nice. Then jump into the fragments, we're going to be using Facet of Awakening for our first one, where rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows will make an elemental pickup. And since a lot of our stuff involves strands, we're going to be getting tangles, and destroying those tangles will just make a big explosion. And on top of that, our gunpowder gambles can make fire sprites, which will give us a grapple and let us move more quickly. To make anything else like ionic traces or stasis shards, it really all comes down to your choosing in weapons, which I have actually a couple of suggestions later in the video. Now for the second one, I'm going to be using Facet of Dawn to make me radiant, and any kills will make anyone around me radiant as well. If you feel like this one is pretty redundant, you can use something like Facet of Bravery, as you can get unraveling rounds with your strand weapons if you get a melee final blow. Now for the third one, I would say a pretty important one, Facet of Ruin. This will basically increase the area of effect of these solar ignitions. And if you really didn't catch it yet, we're doing a lot of that, so this one's a must-have. And this goes really well with Solar Fulmination from our artifact, which can make us boom as hard as those Costco guys. Then for the fourth one, we're going to be using Facet of Balance, as rapidly defeating targets with light will help us get melee energy, and rapidly defeating targets with darkness will grant us grenade energy. This will help us get our grapple back quicker, which is the fun part of this build, so we can reposition all we want without really needing to think. And then in terms of getting the melee energy, if we happen to not have it, we have our dodge, we have a gunpowder gamble, and depending on the super, you have that as well, along with the weapons of choice. Now for the fifth one, I really recommend Fast of Blessing, since we're throwing our threaded spike a lot. And sometimes we're getting in a hairy situation, we kind of just need to throw one out and hope for the best. And most of the time, because I do that, I get my health back and I survive the encounter. Then for the last fragment, we're going to be using Facet of Purpose, as picking up an orb will give us a survivability tool matching our super. Since we're using Storm's Edge, we're going to be getting amplified, and this works well with the artifact mod Galvanic Armor, as we're going to get a damage resistance and we're going to move faster, which who doesn't like moving fast? For the weapons of choice, like I said, you could literally use anything to your liking. One of the weapons I like using this season is Lost Signal to get stasis shards, which will also help get melee energy in case you miss some. This new pulse rifle Corrasion, I got a roll with Swashbuckler and Pugilist, which kind of makes it like a baby Monte Carlo. For the heavies, once again, you can use anything. I like using Microcosm because it's a pretty brain dead heavy weapon and it's nice. For the helmet mod, I'd say the most important one is Hands On, as this will get us bonus super energy on melee final blows. And getting all those melee final blows will help us get our Storm's Edge quicker, causing us to move around the map quicker. For the arms, you want a heavy-handed and a melee kickstarter mod. And the melee kickstarter is really important because when you throw out the threaded spike, while it's doing its thing, you already get a chunk back. So when you catch it, you've kind of already cheated and already have a chunk of melee energy back on top of when you catch it. So if you really mess up, the most that you'll lose is 50%, and then all you have to do is either just dodge if you're impatient or just wait it out. For the chest, it doesn't really matter. Now for the legs, I'd say recuperation mod is pretty nice, and then an invigoration to reduce the cooldown even more when you pick up an orb. Stacks on stacks is just going to be nice, so you don't have to really think about your armor charges and you're usually always full. Then for the class item, we're using one Reaper mod, powerful attraction to pick up orbs when we dodge, and an outreach mod to reduce the melee cooldown even more. Now for the artifact mods, I'd say the most important one is Solar Fulmination, as my ignition will do more damage and increase radius. And combining that with Facet of Ruin, as I mentioned before, is kind of just like a double down, which is pretty awesome. Everything else is pretty optional, so pick what you want. Now in terms of how to actually play this build, you can literally use any order and play however you want. You can engage with a grapple grenade, ignite, and then threaded spike. Or you can do threaded spike, grapple, and dodge and do whatever, as a lot of your kit can always cause an ignition, and anything that you do will eventually make a gunpowder gamble, and gunpowder gamble is a light ability which will help you get your melee back if you don't happen to have it. And talking about if you don't have it, if you dodge, not only do you get your threaded spike back, but you also leave a clone. All the enemies will group up to it and you can either blow them up with the grenade, or you can just throw your threaded spike and kill everything. So yeah, that's about it. If you feel like there's anything that you want to tweak or any suggestions to this build to make it better, make sure to comment down below, as well as like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any other fun builds. And if you really like this build, I have a Mothkeeper Prismatic Hunter build showing up on screen right now that you also might like. And with that being said, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Peace and love, baby.